All right, welcome back. We're back to the quad on the hot mic. So we got Mr. Jared Avery in the building
Yes, sir.
with all the credentials. You know what I'm saying? We got a doctor in the place. We're
Y'all
about to
can't
get
see me,
into
but-
the rest of this conversation.
Oh, they can see you.
Yeah, we do have cameras in there. But I had a question about education. Surprising, this is what we're talking about?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you just your opinion on, I see a lot of these schools, especially in my area, where they're beginning to allow high school students to take college level classes while they're like juniors and seniors in high school. I mean, what do you think about that?
Man, I think it's amazing. I think, and actually, again, I mentioned to you guys earlier just the amount of programs and services that really colleges are providing. But I think it was interesting with the fact that they're starting to partner with other sectors, and they're not looking at higher education and say, hey, we're higher education, we're college, university, we want to stay in the corner, right? They're partnering with businesses. They're partnering with K through 12. They're in many ways partnering with city governments to say, hey, this is what we're offering, to you all. And I was actually a direct recipient of that because I actually took classes going to my junior and senior year of college. Was cool about that and was so dope about that is the fact that you're pretty much earning credit while you're in high school.
While you're in high school.
And that's an amazing thing is when I got to my first year of college, I pretty much was good with English, pretty much good with, I want to say math as well, but I also took an elective. So I was pretty much like 9-12 credits deep, which is equivalent to a full semester.
Yeah.
What you went to Delgado?
That's beautiful.
Did Delgado do it? Because I didn't want to Delgado when I had to do mine too.
A lot of people did. A lot of people at my school did. I went through a summer program at Tulane. And so they kind of helped me out.
Cool.
And I did that as well.
Hey,
So I did that.
Represent
But a lot
us.
of people at my school at McMain went to Delgado. They went to Xavier. I mean, the cool thing about and dope thing about New Orleans is the fact that there's so many different avenues of education, that one could pursue. I mean, you go to a 2-year, you go to a 4-year. There's so many opportunities. So it's just a matter of taking advantage of them.
You picked the best one. So.
Well, I went to McMain, so McMain was like right down the street
Right,
from Tulane,
right.
so that was like a natural
Uptown.
partnership. So
Yeah, all you had to do is just walk there, right?
pretty much.
So discussing the disadvantages and advantages of attending college. So it leads us back to African American experience in college. So by you having to attend PWI and teaching at a HBCU, what is your take on the African American experience at either?
All right, well, that's a good question, and one I
He took a breath.
Don't take a deep breath.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind saying the PWI versus
Yeah, go ahead.
the HBCUs. I
Yeah.
don't mind saying the versus part of it
Yeah.
because it's kind of the PWIs are
I
kind
don't
of.
think it's a versus.
Yeah, and I get it. I get why people say PWI versus HBCU. I get the binary.
I can get it. I can get
think-
it and not get it. Yeah.
I think, and kind of going back and reiterate my original point in terms of there's so many different avenues of success that I think one can take. I think part of that conversation when it's focused particularly on PWIs and HBCUs, not
There
versus,
you go.
is the
There
fact
you
that
go.
HBCUs in particular have been directly impacted by the funding inequities that their PWI counterparts are privy to. So, I kind of point to in the 1800s, the land grant institutions, right? In terms of that, for the longest, they've been disproportionately represented and also funded compared to their predominantly white counterparts. And so, I mean,
Right.
you take a state, in the South, Tennessee, Florida, whatever, the funding levels in many ways aren't equal to the PWI that's there, as well as the PWI and HBCU that are there in that particular state. And I think that's part of the conversation. And I think also when we look at the two institutions, they offer different things. I mean, it's almost different strokes for different folks, right?
Right.
Right.
You go to a PWI, and I think in many ways, for you to go to a PWI, you see certain things and you experience certain things that you don't necessarily experience at an HBCU. For
Agreed.
example,
Right.
Yeah.
it's commonplace if you go to a HBCU, to be surrounded by majority African American Black professors, right?
Yeah.
Or just professors
See
from
your
the
success.
right,
Yeah,
exactly,
see your
from the
success.
diaspora. I mean, you see that every which way you go. At a PWI, I mean, you probably won't get as many. I'm just gonna be
Right.
frank with
Right.
you, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's been a big focus of there you go, and that's been a big focus of a lot of PWIs. I think to really try to give their students a sense of community, and I think there's also a question of a sense of belonging in terms of if you're at a place, if you're a minority student, Black student, you want to feel like, man, like I belong here, like I'm supposed to be here. And I think from a lot of what we've seen over the past 3-5 years in terms of some of the racialized experiences that we've seen, I mean, some of the student protest movements at University of Missouri and around the country, as far as students feeling like, man, like I don't want to be called on, like, I don't want the police called on me, for like
right.
chilling in the lobby. I think that happened at Yale, right?
Yeah.
Or like, instances
More than
where,
once too.
yeah, and like instances where, you're being called the N-word, or
Right.
you won't have, or you're not necessarily being respected or being acknowledged by your faculty members, that they're essentially to support you. I mean, that's why
Right.
they're being paid. And so I think looking at that is interesting, but I think though at PWIs, there's definitely an advantage or definitely a benefit of going to a PWI because obviously, there's a sense of community that's there. I mean, you go to a PWI, I mean, in many ways, like, you have your own sense of community, Black community there. And, there's, as I mentioned to you before, I mean, you still are able to gain that social capital that'll connect you with movers and shakers within the community, not necessarily, within the Black community, but also outside the community as well. So I think it depends on what you're looking for. I really do. But I do think that in terms of providing that cultural support, I think HBCUs are the way to go in terms of providing that cultural support that are really intrinsic and enrichment to African Americans and understanding what it means to be Black, not necessarily just within the United States, but also globally.
Okay, right. Because of course we know that attending either one is an accomplishment.
Yeah,
but a lot of times you will hear or you will see, like, okay, I made it to a HBCU. Woo, I got in. But then if I make it to a PWI, like, dang, man, I really made it.
But you know what? I went to an historically Black
Both, right?
high school.
Okay.
No, I didn't go to HBCU.
Okay.
I went to a historically Black high school. We had all of that stuff that you're talking about there, that feeling of belonging, and it was all Black, all girls Catholic school.
Right.
So we definitely had that Black
Sister
woman
Right,
power,
right,
the
right.
sisterhood.
Mhm.
A lot, just what you said before. A lot of those people are doing a lot of big things, and we have that connection. But because I had that in high school,
Right.
I wasn't interested in having it in college. And
You wanted
so
something different.
I was more focused on going to art school because I know what I wanted to do with my
Right.
future.
Right.
Not necessarily looking at a HBCU or a PWI. Now my second go around when I went to Tulane, definitely purposefully chose a PWI.
Right.
So, but go ahead.
And I think a lot of students, I think you mentioned as well as you, Nicole, a lot of students want that different experience. I think
Right.
it allows them an opportunity to really be in environments where, they aren't always the majority, but where they're the minority. But I think there's something to be said of just really where we are in terms of students getting their degrees, right?
Right.
I mean, what's interesting is the fact that while HBCUs represent 3% of the population in terms of African Americans, they produce 20% of those with bachelor's degrees, and even for STEM people, that's like 27%.
Right.
For folks in STEM,
Right.
and so I think there's something to be said about not necessarily just the intrinsic value, but extrinsic value as well. Where I mean, there's cats, man, that go to HBCUs that they do study abroad and
Right, right.
various countries in Africa, Senegal, South Africa, so on and so forth, Ghana. And, there's a lot of recruiters and a lot of companies that go to HBCUs knowing that, hey, there's a lot of talent there. And so I think there's a benefit, in both. But, I think we're in, a unique space, particularly as it relates to education where, we're in this information age, right? And it's interesting the fact that you're not only competing with a student from Florida, you're not necessarily competing with a student from Arkansas. You're competing with a student from India.
Right.
You're competing with someone from Saudi Arabia. You're competing with someone from Senegal. So I think the more experiences that go into your experience as far as in education, whether that's being engineering, whether that's being biology, it only helps.
So when it comes to, I mean, obviously you have a lot of background and experience in analytics and numbers and data. So tell us, like the regular people, like I'm a regular person, right?
Right.
With a regular person's lens,
Okay.
layman's terms for real.
Right.
But take me into the mind of your world with the analytics and tell me and educate me about what the numbers say regarding like college and success in college students. I mean, what do the numbers say? I mean, even attendance, anything that you can enlighten me about.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I think so. In terms of just where we are with education overall, there's roughly 18 million students that are enrolled in college, and that includes all sectors of college. That includes your 4-year publics, your 4-year privates. That includes your for-profit schools, and it includes your 2-year publics as well, your community colleges, so on and so forth. And so, I mentioned this statistic a little bit earlier, not necessarily stat, but in terms of just the overall number of people in earning power for a bachelor's degree and, of course, a high school diploma is roughly like a $20,000 difference between the two. But I think was also interesting in the fact that, the more you go up, obviously, in terms of getting an advanced degree, those numbers go up, right? I think for an advanced degree compared to a bachelor's and associates and even a high school degree, it's roughly like 74,000, 75,000 in terms of the amount that you make right after you walk across the stage. And I think that's important. But I think to your point, Frank, of where we are when it comes to the point of education is the fact that, our society is becoming increasingly more technologically focused. And I think what's important with that is we have to prepare our people. We have to give them, the skills and the tools to be successful. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to go to college and pursue engineering or computer programming or whatever like that. But I'm saying is that you have to know something. You have to be able to, once you walk across that stage or whatever, if you're, whenever you're done, whenever you move out your mom's house or your dad's house, whatever, you have to be able to build a life for yourself, and I've become increasingly more and more focused as I've gotten older to realize the value of multiple pathways of education, not necessarily from a 4-year, but also a 2-year perspective. And the fact that I think, Chris, we were talking about this on the phone where, man, it's crazy. Like, you have cats that have pretty much, gone on, trained to be like a plumber or electrician. They like banking, they're making they're making stupid money. And so what's crazy is the fact that seriously, like they're good, they're good. But the interesting thing is that they don't have a lot of debt either.
Right.
So like, I mean, they may have a little debt, but they don't have the $40,000 right that
50, 60
exactly
private school.
But on the flip side of that, Frank, is the fact that like I've known exactly. I've known people, I've known people, both women and men alike, that have pursued the PhD, but they can't find a job, man. Like they're really out here struggling, and it's hard for them to do that. And it's tough. It's tough. I think you need to be educated. I think you need to provide some sort of training. And I think, one of the things that someone has said in education has really resonated with me is the fact that education is liberation. And I think that's important. It's about freedom. It's about freedom to choose your own destiny and choose where you go. And I think in this time, in terms of post-factual society, with the current political landscape and, some of the things that they're doing from an administrative standpoint to really block, people that look like you and I, from really progressing. I think it's even more so, you gotta learn something. You gotta be educated. You gotta fight these folks where they are, and with that, you're able to create more pathways for success, but also create more opportunities to build wealth. And that's what we really need in our community.
Right. And that's why I said that I think it's definitely worth it. And when you look at starting businesses, and even if it's something, even if you start a family business, like you said, with plumbing or electrical or something like that, you still have to have that foundation and structure to build on. That helps you achieve that.
So what are some tips, like, for instance, myself, with the interest of going back to school, what are some tips that you would give, just the starting process of that, as far as, choosing, and just taking your time and being mindful on which direction to go, not only going after your purpose or, what you desire, but actually really taking the time out to get things in order and to prepare yourself. Would you, I know it's all about discipline, when people choose to be on campus or online, but just some tips to get those who are thinking about it to go and get started.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nicole. And I think there's a lot of folks, that are from our community that are looking to get back in education, or maybe taking some time off to take care of loved ones and so on and forth, and really trying to get back.
Or just a life period.
Right.
A life period, exactly. And I think, part of it is, number one, researching what's out there, and, obviously understanding, number one, your skill set as a person, what works for you. So, for example, it doesn't make any sense for you to get in a field that's, super demanding in one area, and that's the area where you need to work. It's a challenge area. I mean, obviously challenges exist and challenges can be overcome, but I mean, you have to be realistic in that regard. And, obviously you have to know who you are. I would also say just take opportunity to, maybe network or connect with people that are within that said area. So, if you want to do something within the law space, or even I would argue like maybe, medicine or something to that effect, maybe interview, maybe talk to someone, that's in that particular field to kind of get the ins and out, what it all takes to progress within this field, to give you a better sense of what you need to do to be successful. I've always had a rule of thumb of being prepared. And I think also with that, being critically and intentionally prepared, and that's a part of it. But I think at the end of the day, you have to just step out there and just do it.
That's good.
You have to do it, you have to be disciplined, and you have to want it. And I think that's the big thing. In our community, they want it. They really, really want it. I think I think part of the disconnect is the fact that they may not necessarily know all of the resources and opportunities that are out there that are afforded to them. But I think that's why, you know, platforms such as this one exist, as well as, of course, that's why the internet exists as well.
Yes.
So there's tons of things on there that is just where people can tap and say, hey, this is what's out here.
So what are do you know some sites offhand or places, businesses that you would refer students to for that assistance?
Well, the best thing to do, I would say, to answer your question, not specifically, because I know you guys reach a whole boatload of people, you know, not necessarily here within the state of Texas, but Louisiana and other areas as well.
Rhode Island.
Well, we're on iHeartRadio now, so we're reaching the world, Craig.
Hey.
Well,
Germany.
Yes, Germany.
Shout out to Germany.
Yes, they showed out with the stats.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just say this. I think first checking the U.S. Department of Education website, and I think that's a great way. You know, there's links on there, resources on there that can really say, hey, you know, if you're looking for student funding, you know, here are opportunities that may exist that are, you know, broader. I would also check out, you know, maybe some of the larger philanthropic organizations such as like a Gates Foundation or maybe like United Way or something to that effect. And what's interesting is the fact that there's also opportunities for people within their particular state. So I know in Louisiana, because I'm from Louisiana, there's this thing called Go Grants where if you're returning to school, you know, if you don't fit within that traditional college age of 18 to 24, you know, there's opportunities there for you. There's people out there to say, hey, if you want to be like a plumber or electrician, as I mentioned to you before, there's money out there for you, but we'll cover your tuition. And also a lot of businesses as well. A lot of businesses offer what's called tuition reimbursement. Where you start working there.
Starbucks, UPS.
Exactly. A lot of companies have been hip to that. So.
Tulane has a program for alumni where it's a website you can sign up and put whatever your current role or career is, and then you can sign up to be like a contact person or mentor for people that are freshly graduating, that are interested in coming into that field. Is that something that you're seeing more with colleges post-grad?
Not necessarily from a more institutional perspective, but I have been seeing it more informally, and I think that's a big thing within the Black community where, you know someone, it's all a part of your network, right? I mean, you connect with someone and say, hey, I'm interested in getting so-and-so, you know, this particular field, and they say, hey, let me connect you with somebody I know that you can talk to, chop it up with, and really get the deets about like what it takes to progress, to be successful, so on and so forth. But it's interesting that a lot of, you know, universities are doing that, because I think it all boils down to an earlier point that I made, is the fact that they're becoming more conscious of the fact that we can't just have students just pop up on our doorstep the first day, drop their bags off, and just, you know, you it is what it is. Like, you're either successful or you're not. You know, so I think they're more so taking a hand and saying, hey, this is how you're going to be successful, and this is what we're going to show you to be successful.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. Graduating in public relations, like Julie Greenwald was a Tulane alumni. So you know, if they had had that program in 2008. It might have been different, but
HBCUs do the same thing, because I still get a lot of contacts. I haven't finished at TSU. I went there.
Okay, cool.
The reason why we moved up here, but they do it. All schools do it, and HBCUs, TSU, they do it as well, and they contact me all the time, and I go back and forth with the students. We dialogue all the time. And sometimes I go out there and volunteer and help them out as well.
All right.
Yeah,
that's cool. One of the things actually to that point, and you know, I'm gonna have to correct myself. I actually, you know, from my personal experience, I know, you know, from a program we started at LSU, the Black Male Leadership Initiative program, is the fact that, you know, pretty much Black males within a cohort organization. And, you know, one of the things that we would constantly get would, you know, cats that graduate and say, hey, I want to mentor students in accounting. I want to mentor, you know, folks in this particular field. And they will reach out to us, and subsequently we will make the connection for them. So to correct myself, there are programs like that. You know, of course, institution I'm familiar with, but
self-correction.
But it's good that a lot of institutions are kind of taking that ball and they're running with it.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think it gives the students a lot more options, and it kind of gives them a better outlook, because I know a lot of people freak out when they get to right at the end of graduation and they don't have the next step set.
Exactly.
I think also, just to kind of wrap it up, I think there's a critical
wrap it up then.
I think there's a really important pieces that that I guess that financial. I mean, I'm not financial. The educational advisor, just the academic advisor, because I'm telling you, Dolores Passarelli, if she didn't, I mean, just stay on me my senior year, man. I mean, I really don't believe I would have graduated. She kept me on track, and shout out to her.
Yeah, you see a lot of that. I know at PWIs, you see that a lot of, you know, faculty members, advisors. I know for myself, you know, it was really almost like a village approach, you know, for our community.
Yeah.
You can
Right.
go to so-and-so in this office. You know, you go
Yeah.
to so-and-so, you know, in this particular office, and they'll help you out. They'll say, hey, go talk to so-and-so. I'm
Right.
going to directly walk you over. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those things matter, man. It really does take a
Man.
village of people, you know, to get a college grad out. And it's a community
It
accomplishment.
sure
Yeah,
does.
Mr. Jared, thank you for coming to us, man.
Man,
And,
no problem.
it's a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
I
Really,
feel
really
enlightened.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I know,
Right?
right? And I can't wait till more conversations we're gonna
Definitely,
have regarding
definitely.
projects that we're gonna talk about, most definitely. And
James Avery, PhD. You know what I'm saying?
Uncle
Yeah,
Phil.
that's dead air, man.
Right.
Shout out
dead
Uncle
air.
Phil.
Ah.
Oh my God, I keep saying Jared
Jared,
Avery,
yeah.
PhD. That's
I
what
was
I'm
about to
most
say,
impressed
who is
by.
Uncle
Yeah.
Phil?
Right.
James Avery is the jewelry guy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
your
he
jewelry
is.
company.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
Uncle Phil's
whoever.
Yeah, shout out to James Avery. But we got
Jared
Dr.
Avery.
Avery in the
Yes,
building.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Can I do a couple of things? Can I give my like,
Yeah.
you know,
Please,
Twitter and all that
please.
kind
Yeah,
of stuff?
please do.
All right,
Your
yeah, so-
handles.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Twitter handle is @SmartGuy PhD. So follow me on @SmartGuy PhD, as
No
well as,
doubt.
of course, my wife and I started a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity education as well as robotics
Oh, yeah,
education.
yeah, I
That's
remember you
a-
It's called
telling me, yeah.
Cybersecurity Kids. So check that out. It's www.cybersecurekids.com. So it's pretty
Why
much
you
it.
wait till the last 2 minutes? We're gonna have to bring you and your wife back.
Yeah, for real.
Thank you
I
for
tried to
setting
weave it
that
in the
up.
conversation,
You
but
set it up.
appreciate
It's
Yeah.
all
it.
good.
Appreciate
That was a good plug.
Appreciate it. But I love the work you all do, and I definitely enjoyed the conversation.
Thank
so
you.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you for
Always
coming.
what you say, Ashley? Bomb conversation.
Hey, always
Here at
hot
the Quad.
topics.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all be good.
Peace.